Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are laser focused on a single week. We're talking January 18th to the 25th, 2026. And I think this is a week that people who follow this stuff are going to look back on as a real pivot point for Meta.
It's a week where if you were just skimming headlines, you'd probably get whiplash.
Yeah, exactly.
Because on one side of the company, Meta is, pushing the gas pedal straight through the floor. We're talking nuclear power, new superintelligence models.
Yeah.
And then on the consumer side, they just pulled the emergency brake.
It's a complete paradox. Massive, massive acceleration on the back-end infrastructure, but a dead stop on certain user features. It's like watching a team upgrade a race car engine while they're also welding the passenger doors shut.
That is a perfect analogy, actually. This week wasn't just, a random collection of press releases. It was a strategic realignment. We're seeing them get much, much more calculated, so we need to connect the dots.
Right. We need to start with the brains, the models in the lab, then talk about the massive energy needed to run them, and finally get to why they just suspended a major global product.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with Segment A research, the brains of the operation. The World Economic Forum in Davos was this week, and Meta's CTO Andrew Bosworth actually dropped some real news.
You did. This was about their Superintelligence Labs. This is that sort of skunkworks team they spun up in mid-2025 to work on the really hard problems. And on January 21st, Bosworth confirmed they've delivered their first internal models.
Codenamed Avocado and Mango, which sound very harmless.
Deceptively so. Avocado is the text model, the big language engine, and Mango is the multimodal one, so it understands images, video, text, all of it.
But the key word there is internal. We're all used to Llama, which is their open weights model for the public. So why are they suddenly building these powerful models behind closed doors? Is this them backing away from open source?
I don't think it's a retreat. It's more of a diversification. Bosworth was very careful to say these are in post-training. So think of it this way. Avocado is probably the model they're using to create the training data for the next Llama.
I see. So it's the teacher for the public models.
Exactly. If Avocado really is, as he said, very good, it makes their public models better. It's Meta telling Wall Street, don't worry, the product pipeline for 2026 and 2027 is secure.
So they're building the machine that builds the machine. Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of machines doing complex work, the paper that really jumped out at me this week was Cognigent. It hit RCIV around January 20th.
Oh, yeah. This one's a big deal for anyone who writes code.
A headline is Agentic Bug Localization.
But, this feels like a fundamental change. We've had AI that can write code for years now.
Yeah.
But this isn't about writing. It's about debugging. It's about fixing things.
It's fixing the messes that we humans make. And the key term you mentioned is agentic workflow. We should probably unpack that.
Yeah, please, because agentic is a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot. Right. So it means the AI isn't just predicting the next chunk of code. It's more like a team of specialists. You might have one AI agent that acts like a reader, another that's a tester, another a logician. They work together using causal reasoning to find the root cause of a bug, not just a typo.
So it's less like a spell checker and more like a detective. It's not saying you missed a comma. It's saying this specific function crashed because it received a value it wasn't expecting from that other module over there.
Precisely. And the numbers in the paper are pretty staggering. They're reporting up to a 38.57% improvement in bug localization precision.
38%. Wow. For anyone who's not in software, you need to understand engineers can spend half their time just trying to find what broke. That's a huge unlock.
It's an enormous productivity boost.
It's interesting you say that because that ties into this other study from January 22nd. This one was called LLM, or Human. And it gets into the psychology of all this.
This one was really fascinating. It sort of flies in the face of the whole tech backlash narrative we hear so much about. The researchers found that, yes, people struggle to tell if a summary was written by a human or an AI. We knew that. But here's the twist. They actually rated the quality of the information higher when they were told an AI was a collaborator.
That's a little weird, isn't it? It's like a trust bias. If I'm told a human wrote this, I might be skeptical. But if I'm told an AI helped write this, I just assume it's better.
The data seems to suggest that, yeah, users seem to view the AI as a sort of tireless fact checker. It validates Meta's whole product strategy. They keep framing their AI as a co-pilot, not a replacement. And if users already trust the human plus machine output more, that makes adoption so much easier.
Right. Okay, let's move from the lab to the tools. Segment B products and developer platforms. On January 21st, we got a big release, PyTorch 2.0.
And normally a .10 release is bug fixes, little maintenance. This was not that.
No, this felt like a strategic move. Looking at the release notes, this is a shot across the bow at NVIDIA.
Oh, absolutely. For the past, 5 or 6 years, if you wanted to do serious AI work, you paid the green team tax. You bought NVIDIA GPUs because their software, CUDA, was the only game in town.
But this new PyTorch release has expanded support for Intel's GPUs and a lot of new optimizations for AMD's hardware.
Which is a huge deal. It diversifies the ecosystem. By optimizing for Intel and AMD, Meta is basically giving developers more options. They're breaking the hardware monopoly. You don't want to be completely dependent on one supplier for the most critical component of your entire strategy.
It's a supply chain power play disguised as a software update.
That's a great way to put it, and it also prepares them for running AI on the edge,
Yeah.
on the devices we all own, which is a perfect segue to what happened with Instagram.
January 23rd, the rollout of Restyle.
The big shift to what they're calling generative UI.
This is what I found most interesting. For the last couple of years, every single company just shoved a chatbot into their app. Chat with our AI to do this thing. And honestly, it's exhausting. I don't want to have a conversation to edit a photo.
And the data backs you up. Chatbots have friction. Restyle, on the other hand, is just a little paintbrush icon in the Instagram Stories camera. You tap it, you brush over something, and the AI just does its thing.
No conversation needed.
And the adoption was instantaneous. They reported that daily AI usage on Instagram hit 2.7 million right after this launch. Because the AI just disappeared into the UI. It's a tool, not a character you have to talk to. It proves users want AI that's embedded, that's invisible.
But here's the thing. 2.7 million people editing photos, plus avocado training in a data center, plus all those cognizant agents running. That takes an astronomical amount of power.
It does. Which brings us to segment C, infrastructure, and the quiet admission that solar and wind just aren't going to cut it for this level of compute.
Reports started surfacing around January 20th that Meta is funding something called uprates at 3 nuclear power plants: Perry, Davis-Besse, and Beaver Valley.
These are major plants in the Rust Belt, Ohio, Pennsylvania. And uprates is a wonky term, but it basically means they're paying to upgrade existing nuclear reactors to squeeze more electricity out of them.
And we're not talking about a small amount. This unlocks 6.6 gigawatts of power.
That's an incredible number. For context, that's enough to power millions of homes. But it's not going to homes. It's going to data centers.
So the obvious question is, why nuclear? Why not just build a giant solar farm?
It's the intermittency problem. When you're training a model like Mango, that training run can take weeks, even months, of nonstop high-intensity computation. You can't have the power dip because a cloud passed over or the wind died down. The whole process could fail.
So you need what's called firm power.
Exactly. 24/7, reliable, baseload power. And right now, nuclear is the only carbon-free source that provides that at a gigawatt scale. They are securing the grid to become an AI superpower.
So while they're building this colossal industrial backend, the front end, the consumer-facing side, hit a brick wall this week.
A massive one. Which brings us to segment D, safety and governance.
This was the big, loud story on January 23rd, the global pause.
Meta suspended access to their AI character companions for any user identified as a teenager. Globally. Just turned it off.
And we should be clear what these are. These aren't editing tools. These are the AI persona bots, the ones that pretend to be a celebrity or a fictional character or just, a friend.
Right. And those are designed for emotional engagement, which is a minefield with minors. Now, obviously, there's regulatory pressure here, but the way they're enforcing this pause is the really interesting part.
They're not just checking what birthday you entered when you signed up.
No, because they know kids lie. They announced they're moving to what they call probabilistic age detection.
Okay, let's unpack that. Probabilistic means they're guessing.
It means they're inferring, using AI. The system analyzes user behavior, who you follow, what slang you use, but it's even more granular. How fast do you type? What's your sentence structure like?
Wait, they're analyzing keystroke dynamics? The rhythm of how you type.
They're looking for patterns. The way a 14-year-old interacts is measurably different from a 40-year-old. The AI builds a confidence score, and if the probability you're a minor crosses a certain line, you get flagged as a suspected teen.
That is intense. I mean, on one hand, it's a smart way to protect kids who lied about their age. But on the other, it means they're building a behavioral profile of every single user to figure out who they really are.
It completely changes the model from credential-based to behavior-based. And for this pause, It means even if your profile says you're 25, if you act 15, you lose access.
And at the same time, they're pushing new tools for parents.
Yep, announced on the same day. Parents will soon be able to see which AI characters their kids are talking to and even block specific ones.
It's a liability shield. They're saying, we gave you the tools, now it's on you.
It's a PG-13 rating system for AI. They're trying to build a governance layer that keeps regulators happy without having to kill the product entirely.
So they're sanitizing the platform. Which brings us to the last piece of this week's puzzle, Segment E ecosystem. Because if you're building hardware that can see and hear everything, you really need people to trust it.
And that's where the Ray-Ban Meta glasses come in. On January 21st, they launched the AI Glasses Impact Grants Program,
A $2 million fund.
but for a very specific purpose: societal benefit. They are literally paying developers to find good uses for the glasses.
So things like accessibility for the visually impaired, education, healthcare.
Imagine an app that whispers descriptions of a room to someone who's blind, or translates a conversation in real time. That's what they're paying for.
It feels like a defensive move. If the glasses are just for taking videos, they're a privacy nightmare. But if
Right.
they're framed as an assistive medical device,
That's it, exactly.
Okay.
It builds what you could call a moat of utility. It's much harder for regulators to crack down on a device if it's helping people navigate the world. They're rebranding the hardware from a surveillance tool to an assistive tool.
it softens the whole image, buys them a social license to operate.
And it makes sure that when avocado and mango are powerful enough to run on those glasses, the hardware itself is still socially acceptable.
So let's zoom out. We're looking at this single week, January 18th to the 25th. What's the one-sentence summary?
I'd say it's a story of hardening. They are hardening their infrastructure with nuclear power. They're hardening their developer ecosystem by breaking the reliance on NVIDIA. And they are hardening their defenses against regulation by locking down teen safety.
They're clearing the decks for whatever comes next.
Completely. You don't secure 6.6 gigawatts of power for a side project. You do that when you're planning to scale to a level nobody has seen before. And you don't shut down a popular feature for teens unless you know the next version has to be absolutely bulletproof.
It's a fascinating, maybe a little unnerving look at their strategy. And that brings me to a final thought I can't quite shake from our conversation about age detection. Okay, so we're talking about Meta using AI to analyze how we type, our vocabulary, our patterns, all to guess if we're a teenager for safety. But if their AI is good enough to know your age just by how you use a keyboard, what else does it know? Does it know if you're feeling depressed? Does it know if you're getting sick? Could it know you're about to quit your job before you've even told your boss?
That is the ultimate question of behavioral data. Once that profile exists, it's rarely used for just one thing.
Something to think about the next time you're typing out a message. That's all for this week's deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.